Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the first Café Muse of 2025. I'm Majda Gama, and I'm hosting tonight. Henry Crawford is our tech genius behind the scenes. Our featured poets tonight are Jason Gebhardt, Donald Illich, and Brenardo. Our program is scheduled for 1 hour. But before we dive into the rich pool of poetry talent with us tonight, our founder, Karen Alanier, would like to share a remembrance for a poetry legend we recently lost.
Thank you, Majda. Our beloved Myra Sklarou, a matriarch of our American literary community, died December 30th this past year. She was a biologist, poet, and teacher. She was author of 17 poetry collections and many other books, including her last, A Survivor Named Trauma, Holocaust Memory in Lithuania, published in 2020, an interdisciplinary book that combined prose, poetry, and memoir. She founded the MFA in Creative Writing at American University and taught over 10,000 students. From 1987 to 1991, she served as president of the Yaddo Arts Colony. With support from the George Washington University, she was the founder of A Splendid Wake, an archival project that operated from 2013 to 2022, and whose purpose it was to preserve the legacy of poetry in the greater Washington, D.C. area from 1900 to the current day. Her family is planning her splendid wake, and we will let you know when we know. In the meantime, find the witty obituary she wrote herself that was published in the Washington Post on December 31st, and welcome to all her family and friends who are attending here tonight. Here is a poem by Myra Sklarou, The Sunflowers of Umbertide. Before I go into the dark places, before I enter the tunnel of the past, before I climb down into the pit where I kneel on the earth, where those I once loved leave me a remnant of bone, before their lost names scatter to the wind, before the trees forget what they witness, before, for no reason at all, a child is taken from life, before, I stand in Umbertide, where the sunflowers turn their bountiful heads eastward, their buds still in circadian rhythm, and I am warmed by them. My eyes fill with their seeds and petals, florets in perfect spirals, their golden offerings risen high on their stems. I carry them in my arms, the entire field of sunflowers from Umbertide, so the coldness of the pit in the old, cold country will not freeze me entirely. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. That's a beautiful poem. That's the first time I've heard it. And my condolences to Myra's family and friends, and also to her many students. I know that she's a giant in this area for poetry, and just I've heard wonderful things. Now, before I turn you over to the poets, just some housekeeping rules here. Audience members have been muted. This helps prevent feedback problems for our readers and ensures uninterrupted programming. Please bear with us if we do encounter a technical glitch, especially on a snowy night. During the reading, please use the chat to comment or show your appreciation of our featured poets. On-screen finger snaps are acceptable too. We encourage you to buy our featured authors' books tonight and to donate to Café Muse to support our literary programs. I'll be dropping links for donating into the chat. I think that the poets have some links and suggestions as well for where to find their books. I hope you'll join Café Muse next month on Monday, February 3rd at 7:30 p.m., also on Zoom. Our two featured poets that night will be the poet Joan Quan Glass and Cynthia Marie Hoffman. Now, tonight's group of poets represent the very rich tapestry of talent in the DMV area. They each have contributed to the greater community while also honing their craft to the highest level. While I wish we were in person tonight, I truly feel lucky to have these three poets with us tonight. It's an absolute joy to introduce our first poet, Jason Gebhardt. Jason's poetry has been in my life for almost a decade now, teaching me about voice and presence. His is a poetics of quiet attention, of poems whittled down through inventive form and concise language into laser-sharp poetry. Jason's poems are textured through with family, nature, and a point of view that lingers after the last word on the page. Jason Gebhardt's poems have appeared in a number of journals, including the Southern Review, Poet Lore, my old journal, Tinderbox Poetry Journal, Gargoyle and Tar River Poetry, and his chapbook Good Housekeeping won the 2016 Kathy Smith Bowers Prize. He is the recipient of multiple artist fellowships from the DC Commission on the Arts and Humanities. He lives in Washington, D.C. with his family and works as a preschool teacher. Please welcome the poet Jason Gebhardt to Café Muse.
Thank you, Majda. Oh my goodness. Oh, yeah, so many of my poetry friends are here. Thank you for coming. And thank you, Majda. And I just wanted to thank WordWorks and Café Muse. I was so thrilled to get an email from Ellen inviting me to read. And it's really exciting to read with Don, who's been a buddy of mine for some time, and Brenardo, who hopefully will be a buddy of mine in the future. So my first poem is called Nectarine. And I was basically a stay-at-home parent for about 16 years or so. And finally, my youngest is now in elementary school and stuff. But when he was, he was like 2 or 3, you know, when you're at home with kids, little kids, you sort of wander the streets with them and it takes forever to go nowhere. And he had this little ritual where he had to find a stick, like a little twig. And every time we came to a tree, he had to tap the tree all the way around the circumference of the tree. And he called that, for some reason, nectarining. So anyways, this poem's called Nectarine. It's good to not know what you're doing. A reminder you're just visiting from somewhere. When my 3-year-old says he's nectarining the oak, don't ask how nectarines figure in. Let him delight in picking the perfect twig. Follow as he rounds the trunk, tapping its bark. You're visiting from somewhere you can't describe. Why rush to the next place, then the next? Stop and let the tree need this from him, like the bloom needs the bee's casual brush. Good to know the fruit, but not the tree. Let nectarine pass through the dictionary of air. And so now that all my kids are in school and, you know, so I don't end up being a burden on society and cause trouble, I've become a preschool teacher I've been doing it for maybe 4 years now. And so one of the things that you'll find in a preschool classroom is a sensory table. And it's basically a table that you put a bunch of objects in and the children learn through through touch and looking at things and smelling them and all kinds of senses. So this poem's called Sensory Table. The children delight at how their classmate's eye grows big, then shrinks to size as she pushes the magnifying glass away from her face, then back toward it. The table before them spread with objects meant to allure. Spiky sweet gum balls, half a paper wasp nest, lichen alive on rough dead bark. But they are most drawn to the seed pods, the nuts, acorns, smooth and hard, large in their hands, small in mine. Some roll them back and forth like marbles. Others bang and crack the nuts against the tabletop, then dig into the flesh with their fingers. Little notion they are just the start of something. Okay, this next poem is called Parables. It again, I have these two trees in my yard. One is a giant ash tree, and the other one is actually a little sprout. It doesn't seem to grow. It was planted by my students. We every year, my partner teacher and I, we give the kids a snack of apples, and then what we do is we have them use their fingers to crack the cores and pull out the seeds. It's good for their fine motor skills. And then what we do is we plant seeds in the earth. And I brought one home one year, and it's still growing. So I have this giant ash tree, and I have this little sprout of an apple tree. Parables. The tree, already tall by the year I purchased this house, I've lost track of how much higher it's grown since. Not like the sky as a door frame you can mark with a pencil. My neighbor says it's an ash, a volunteer. Nobody remembers when it showed up. Perhaps it's better not to know where a thing comes from than to merely believe you do. Not far from the ash lives the apple sprout I replanted, still skinny and small enough to be mistaken for a weed. Doing the same work as Brother Ash, handing back this year's leaves, and it too will bud if it survives winter. My students grew it from the seed of apples they'd snacked on. With their tiny fingers, they plucked the pips from the cores and carried them to our planter outside on the playground. Some dropped their seeds in the short distance from the door. Others, eager to play, cast theirs across the dirt, then scampered off. And good for them to get right to what they were here for. Though a few stayed, and with their hands dug small holes in the moist earth, then gently patted their seeds down. So we used to have a goldfish. For most of my kids' life, we had this goldfish. And then I wrote a poem about the goldfish, and then the poem got published. But shortly after it got published, goldfish died. So I don't know. I don't know if it's bad karma or what. But anyways, this is the goldfish poem. Now the light is on. Scales catch the sudden brightness, glint as the fish glides through what must be like air. Circling the few gallons it has, it bobs down, mouths a pebble, spits, repeats. It surfaces, lips working against the water's limit, lips open, shut, as if saying, hello, hello to my big face, peering down. I tell my children everything it does for the first time, that it can't get bored or go crazy. They aren't old enough to remember when the fishbowl wasn't here. The goldfish, like the sidewalk, this house, their father, has always been. Its ever open eyes glistening with an absence that takes you in. You want to fill it with something, like a story. So in 2019 and 2020, like many of us, we were trying to make it so that Trump wouldn't get reelected. And I did all the phone calls and I did all the stuff. And then I thought, you know what? I'm just going to do, I'm going to use magic. I'm going to do voodoo. So what I did is I took all of the states that Obama won that Trump flipped in 2016, and then I made poems in the shape of those states. So this is Florida. I don't know if you can see Florida there. If I go back, can you see it? Okay, so this is my poem in the form, it's Work Song is the name of the poem, a poem in the form of the state of Florida. Do you ever stop and find yourself humming something vaguely a song, a repetitive tune you've never heard before, though you listen to a lot of Philip Glass and Brian Eno? a work hum. It gets you through the tasks that are a kind of humming. How the bees must feel as they bop around your unintentional garden of flowering weeds. How I broom the stairs or pin wet shirts to the line. Sometimes you set out with an epic in mind. And once at it, you find there's little that needs to be said. Ask John Milton. He struggled with this. Longed to spend afternoons more simply, picking dry or warm socks from the plastic basket and matching them while watching reruns of MASH and Sanford and Son. Red Fox, I look to the heavens and I clutch my chest. This is the big one, Red. I'm coming to join you. You would have had so much to say, Red, to the great blind poet. Perhaps you're telling him now. And Alan Alda, where are you? In the 1980s, you were filming the Korean War in Calabasas, 20 miles from my neighborhood. My grandpa said you were a good man, that I looked like you, even at 10. I'd hoped to be good too. Sometimes it's simple. You stumble onto something good and simple, and you repeat it. Pick a river that is long, with a one-syllable name, and sing it. There is one called peace. So yesterday I was looking up Dean Young, the poet Dean Young, and I didn't know this, but he had died. I was shocked, and then I figured I had written a poem after one of his poems, and so this is after Dean Young, and I guess for him now. It's called Mystic Aspirations. It doesn't matter how many pharaohs you dig up, or that you prove the Rosetta Stone a fake planted by extraterrestrial comedians, or that every hair on your head has been counted. It doesn't matter that you're handy with a scroll saw, or that the Chinese Communist Party has stolen your identity more than twice, that you're near ambidextrous, that you can parse a poisonous spider from one that's not. It doesn't matter that you can convincingly argue which is the best Beatles album, and why noir is Greek tragedy's replacement. It doesn't matter that you're now considering a career as a small town graffiti artist, or that the sun also rises and old MacDonald had a farm, or that your consciousness is like being stuck in a lyric poem that started many pages ago and has an endpoint somewhere that's hard to find by thumbing through the book. It doesn't matter that the last of your next door neighbor's trees is dead now too, that you still got lost on the streets of your hometown, that the Gremlin remains the strangest car ever made. Oh, uh-oh. Sorry. It doesn't matter that your real name sounds like a porn name, sounds more like a porn name than your porn name. That the goldfish beckons to you each turn of the bowl, its flash like the flash of a lighthouse beacon. It doesn't matter how many times you teetotal or consult the Ouija or throw the bones against the alley wall. Mysticism will only get you so far. So, and then, so I have two more, I have three more. I don't know hopefully if I have time, you can pull the big thing, pull me out, I go over. So mainly I've been writing, get up in the morning before I go to work and I write these prose poems and they're like 100 words and then I'm done. And so this one, one of my mentors, David Keplinger, is here now, and he's so inspiring to me, and I just sort of, I'm trying to rip him off, but I never can, it seems. This one is called Tchaikovsky, and my kids, they really hate rock music. They only will listen to classical music. And they basically told me the story of Tchaikovsky. Apparently he was a little nuts and he was worried that if he conducted his own music, it would be too intense and his head would pop off. So he would conduct like this with this one hand, So here's Tchaikovsky. Dreaming is a dance. There are specific moves, a grace in unawareness. No one can come with you. If there is a beat, it's because you installed a drum. If there is a violin, you must have taught yourself. Whole orchestras of you have been known to surface just to perform a master's lost ballet, unknown to all but your body, and only for that portion of one night. There are even cannons, and you conduct one-handed. The other hand presses down hard on the crown of your head for fear it will loose and fly off. So I think I'll stop with this. This one will be my last one. It's called World Rich in Anniversaries. And I really got into this prose poet, and he's also a verse poet, Jean Follain. He's a French writer. And I ordered one of, I tried to find this book of prose poems. It's called The World Rich in Anniversaries. And I got a used copy, and I found it was like withdrawn from Bates College Library storage, and it had the name, it was in memory of, I guess, one of their alumni who died in 1974, and you could find information about that person. And then I flipped back and it looked like no one had ever checked it out. See, there's no, the nil envelopes in there and everything. It's translated by William Matthews, who is actually, he co-translated it. He's really good friends with many of the people here, one of our teachers, Stanley Plumley. So this poem is called A World Rich in Anniversaries after the book. Follain died hit by a car at Place de Concorde 10 years before my used copy was published. The flyleaf, rubber stamped, withdrawn Bates College Library storage. Its original borrowing card still snug in the manila pocket. No names or due dates listed. The pages free of dog ears and check marks. I underline, there's a terrible sweetness to everything. Words the translator Bill Matthews arrived at from the French. Matthews died of a heart attack the day after his 55th birthday. Years later, his friend Stanley Plumley recalled in a poem the two of them drunk and stumbling about a tiny railroad apartment in New York. Who will love us in the end, it asks. Thank you. And I do have a chapbook. It's called Good Housekeeping. But if you find me, at the reading, I was just gonna give them away. So if you find me, I will give one to you. So, all right, thank you.
Oh my gosh, Jason, thank you. I don't know, that exceeded all my expectations. And thank you for being the first person to kick off the year for us, especially on this night and on this day. Your poetry was just what I needed. Next, I am thrilled to introduce Donald Illich, poet I've admired for many years now. Don has a lyric that is truly unique, with arresting line breaks, syntax, and associations. In an interview with the literary journal 32 Poems, Don cites Thomas Lux as a source of inspiration and of a sensibility that he hopes to emulate. Well, I think Don meets this inspiration and exceeds it. Donald Illich's work appears in such journals as Iowa Review, Nimrod, Passages North, Rattle, and Cimarron Review. Donald was a Discovery Boston Review 2008 poetry contest semifinalist. His work was anthologized in A Face to Meet the Faces, an anthology of contemporary persona poetry. Chance Bodies was published in 2018 by the WordWorks. Rescue is Elsewhere, released in 2023. Love Poems on Bar Napkins is his most recent book. Please welcome Don to Café Muse.
Thank you, Maja. This is really great being able to read for all of you. As you all may notice, it's been snowing. It's outside, just covering everything. And I thought, what could I do to get rid of the snow? So I wrote a poem called Invocation to Spring. And it's not quite as sincere as all that, but I'll let go with that. Invocation to spring. Winter growls again, snarls is stark and cold. Clouds look forward to blizzards. Pipes break once more. I ask, spring, return. My heart wants to explode into light. Withdrawal nights bare branches for green summoned on trees. Winter refuses to listen. It lingers for more than its allotted time. Icicles dangle under eaves. Snowmen provide an army. I make a snow angel. It flies off into the sky. The next poem is for my dad. He was an amateur boxer in his youth, and I think he had one match and he won it, but he won lots of other matches in his life. And so this poem is called Surrender, and I'm dedicating it to him, of course. Each boxer knows the other boxer's next move. Uppercut, one boxer, roundhouse, the other. They circle each other, no one striking. Left hook, thinks one, and right hook, the other. Jab, 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 both here in their heads, afraid to land a punch. The audience boos. But the crowd has never read each other's minds. They don't know combat depends on the unexpected. An opening never occurs, a window into another world of blood crunching bone. The boxer's legs tire, muscles quiver. The boxer who falls will be the one who can't stand. Then mind reading won't matter. The loser will surrender, and the referee will raise the hand of the victor. Sometimes a blow is unneeded. Wait the opponent out. Get ready for the body crashing to the canvas. Then dance in the ring. Dance like the world comes anew. This poem is for Henry Crawford because I read something by him and this poem came out. And so thanks, Henry. It's called Man Becomes Pig. Hypnotized, I'm a duck joining its mate on the river. I quack, try not to appear fearful with all the other creatures around. Flying seems impossible, so I must rely on my webbed, clawed feet. Then the hypnotist says I'm a pig, and I oink in my mud pen, my only filth in this world. I imagine being loaded up the ramp to the slaughterhouse, that my heart burst as I become bacon. Collapsing, I drop to the club's floor and people call 911. The hypnotist is apologetic, shows a sign on the board he's not responsible for people's injuries. He chants, I'm human now, but I don't hear. Too late in my dream of death. As they rush me into the ER, I whisper to a nurse not to hang me by a hook when they're done. I know they will give away my other organs. The electric charge prompts the small oink. Then try again, and I'm brought back from the house of death to a blue shadowed room, people wearing plastic on their hands, around their faces. But they have not saved a fellow human. No one, not even the hypnotist, can change my identity. In a ward, I snuffle around, dosed heavily, becoming the pet pig for all the patients. There is no magic phrase, no open sesame, no combination of words that can bring me back. Thank you, Henry, for that. This one, I had Jason look at, and so he gave like the thumbs up on it. Probably could go a little faster, but it's called Glove. I sit on a rock. A quake could tumble me. I could fall in a river, spiraling into the water. A lightning bolt could indicate what the sky really thinks, burn me like a cartoon character into ash. I could win the lottery. I'll buy everyone houses and Porsches. Most likely nothing will happen but the gurgling of my stomach, wanting a grilled cheese and chips. I descend from the rock to see where I sat, a rounded pitcher's mound, where I threw my dreams. God, the hitter blasting them back at me. My gloved hand rose, caught dreams before they went over the fence. A crowd rushed to seize a nightmare before it killed me. I was unwary of death, whether it had millions or just stars blazing through the leather of my mitt. I seem to do these night star sky poems. So this is another one of those. It's called Seeing at Night. Push the telescope and its magnified lenses, vanish it in what it sees, stars, the moon from the earth. Put your eyes on the grass, trees. Notice what you forgot to view as lovely. Waterfalls blur the distance between water and light. Short hills green over past highways malfunctioning in the dark. The face of cliffs peers into you, and their massive height makes you blink. You wish the telescope would return so interstellar fires would burn and burn. You'd name constellations after yourself, so your words will be called by the world from a million oblivious lips. This is what if we didn't have the wheel? What if that never came invented, was never invented? And where would we be? It's called What's Round and Doesn't Exist. The wheel doesn't want to be invented. It wishes to stay in platonic space, invisible, only a fever dream of the smartest minds. No horses transporting wheels over gravel paths, or pedaling a bicycle's wheels and streets to the nearest tavern, where the rider gets so drunk he fails to find his bike. No, instructions are lost. The parts don't come together. Humanity must walk everywhere under dust clouds, their clothes covered in filth. The cave is their home. The wheel refuses to enter their dreams. It remains the secret to disaster. No tanks ride over soldiers' bones. A wheeled cannon does not deliver a missile to a world that loses its skies. This is The Idea of Family. It's a prose poem. Um, I think that's all I need to say about it. Dad is granite, arms capturing rain and snow before they hit the ground, able to wrap anything in his big hands. His lawnmower seems to move by itself, and the roof is clean of debris and disaster. Mom knows how to kiss goodnight to babies and friends and works a full-time job while plotting children's birthdays like a pro party planner. Her SUV drops kids to soccer practice who will explode into the field and score more and more goals. The kids define precociousness, painting canvases that show in the museum and earning notice from scientists for their school projects. They plot harmless practical jokes that make their parents shake their heads good-naturedly. When they get together at the local watering hole, their conversation has no holes in it. It's tight as a submarine diving for the 7th time. They talk about Dutch machinery, politics, Taylor Swift, canned vegetables, songs on the chart, and their school grades. Everyone sitting by them marvels at the idea of family they represent, how their faces even glow like alien ray blast, how the skin under their sheer clothes is translucent so people can see their heart sleep underneath their rib cages with no escape possible, none wanted. This is a more realist poem. It didn't quite happen to me, but it could have happened to me. It's called Dare Gravity. It tells me to climb the rope, but I know if I do, I will fall. Gym floor cracked by bone and flesh, blood spilling out of my mouth. Is that what you really want, coach? I can do jumping jacks all day, or do 100 sit-ups for you. I stare at the rope, pantomime I'm ready to climb. Fingers roll around threads as I leave the ground, dare gravity to reverse my route to the clouds. I try to visualize success, but it fails to enter my thoughts. Instead, I imagine what failure looks like, death, or the fire department, letting me fall into a trampoline of rescue. Eventually, coach tells me to run laps, which I gladly do, as I watch another classmate attempt to pull himself up the rope, fearing how it dangles from the ceiling into darkness. And this is called Bardo, and it's about the Bardo is in between, death and the afterlife or the next plane of existence or whatever. So the idea, I think I got from George Saunders, but so this poem is basically about that. Bardo. You let yourself go, face the back of your head. You don't know how you see it unless you've died. A ghost, you inspect areas of your body no one has told you about. Your ass sags, back sweatier. The flesh of your legs are a mass made of fat and muscle. Your supernatural eyes glitter through the air, spy faces of mourning, waiting for the ambulance to take you away. Skating on the edge of consciousness, about to enter the bardo. You no longer hate the people of this world. Um, Here's another poem that Jason had a look at in advance. And thank you for the positive feedback. It's called Peel. And it also benefited from revision from my friend Kitten. And so the previous version was really unsuccessful. So I'm hoping that this one is a lot more successful. It's called Peel. Cars crackle down the street next to home, racing each other for money, respect. Engines pop one last time as I'm trying to sleep. Hands no longer peel off nightmares. Arms float like interdimensional ghosts. Vehicles blast through the sap of my blood. I awaken my anthology of fate. No midnight sonnets, no heartbeat leaps into love. My mouth speaks a strange language while I try to swim to the top of my words. Auto speed through what's been done before. I've lost the book I was reading in my sleep. If you dream, you can't follow the text, but somehow I did. Every noun, every verb. Um, I'm going to read this one, and then I'm going to read a few older poems. This one is kind of more of a darkly comic poem called The Sonnet for Overworked Superheroes. The superheroes gather at a city's bar. They're all too drunk to save a cat from a tree, foil a villain's extortion of gold from Earth with a laser that can melt the polar caps. Heroes drop to the floor, slur indecipherable words about how their city needs them too much. Another hero shoots lightning bolts at the walls, laughing at how they've sparked the air, formed clouds of searing smoke. Soon, the heroes see a force field covers the exits from the bar. A yellow light shocks anyone who tries to fly or jump through it. It doesn't matter. The heroes are tired. Give up. The bar is released on a planet far away. Do they really want to save everything in life? So I'm going to read some love poems. Um, this one is the first one in the book of love poems, and or I would say most of them on bar napkins, and then I would bring them home and transcribe them and all that. And sometimes they'd be kind of stained, so I'd have to guess. But that was fun. I wrote them several years ago. This is the first one in the book. Every rock show, I'm standing alone by the bar, sipping the cheap beer, kissing goodbye to all the dollars in my pocket. The bands might be surprised, though, if you slipped behind me and wrapped soft arms around my hyperventilating chest. They might stop playing, throw a spotlight on us, and dedicate a new song to our love, made up then and there as if we telegraphed words and music through the way we touched beneath blinking string lights. We danced past concert posters and paintings of skulls on the wall. We'd rub our nose rings like Gothic Eskimos. The punk rock girls would catch the bouquet of thorns. Security would escort us. Upheld lighters would guide our way. And I'm going to conclude with a poem from Chance Bodies. All my books can really be found on Amazon if you look just with my name. And let's see which one I'm going to read. Darker. Oh yes, this one fits the cold and the snow and all that's kind of going on. And thank you for listening and thank you for coming. I really appreciate everyone. This is called Darker. You walk to your therapist through a corporate park. Buildings glitter with glass. Stubborn cars still fill parking lots. Grown trees carry flocks of blackbirds. Their wings are dark leaves that suddenly fall, spin in the sky with loud squawks, then resettle the branches. You think of what you want to say, but the birds keep disturbing your concentration. You imagine flying with them, miles of winged darkness. What does it all mean? Above the earth, you don't care. You are free, frightening. You dare the evening to be darker than you. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Dawn. It was really wonderful to hear such a wide variety of poems from you, from your books, and to hear also about your father. That was really moving. That's quite a story. Well, let's just keep rolling in the poetry. Our next poet is Brenardo. Brenardo is a lyrical adventurer of word and sound. The poems he brings to the fore show his versatility as a page plus performance poet. I love that. I think that's so important. He has performed his poems and songs at festivals, schools, libraries, coffee houses, cruise ships, and assorted other public and private events where he has astounded those in attendance. He is presented alongside Amiri Baraka, Sonia Sanchez, Dick Gregory, and other esteemed visionaries. An alumnus of the Poets in Progress under the tutelage of the late Dolores Kendrick, Poet Laureate for the District of Columbia, as well as the anointed PENS. He is currently a member of the renowned poetry troupe Collective Voices and a freelance poet. He has recently completed work on the expansion and follow-up to his 2019 chapbook, Bridge Over Trouble, with bridges over aggravated troubles. Please welcome Brenardo to Café Muse.
Thank you. I would say unmute yourself so I can hear the applause, but it's okay. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everybody. On behalf of Josh Holly and Mitch McConnell and Ted Cruz, I want to welcome all of the insurrectionists from the previous January 6th back to the nation's capital. Please don't break any windows this time. Okay. Now I got that out the way. Thank you, Café Muse, for inviting me here. When I was presented the Times, I thought of this date particular because I've got a poem by that title. But before we do that, let's get into the book, Bridge Over Aggravated Troubles. Like a bridge over troubled waters, I will lay me down. We lay down sentences, convinced this is the reason we were chosen. It is the word we serve to which we are beholden. Quote them in your synagogues, your churches, mosques, your schools. Please share. Make them audible in concert halls, stadiums, auditoriums. Name them anthems, theme songs, prayers. These derivatives of that which made everything made possible are what we bring to lay. To say the problems seen are solvable, we commend them, extend them as far as they are allowed. Let the sun shine in again, remove the shroud. Let these words be heard from heart to heart to heart, as we remember how life for all did start, how life remains for every son and daughter, like a bridge over troubled waters. We now lay these down. Dong, 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 dong. Whenever I see caskets, I am left to gravitate to the deaths of ones now gone. Some beloved, some unknown beyond their names. In 2021, with hordes of guns and a pandemic run wild, there were so many ones. But one stands tall out for me, the death knell for what they tell to me about the respect for liberty. Became muted, rooted in the draining of the truth in absolute. In 2021, the death knell had been sounded as officers who protect the institutions where our legislators were gathered, dealing in the most sacred matters of the country, found themselves surrounded, cursed at, spat upon, with flagpoles pounded. I tuned in from far away, dismayed, disturbed, transfixed, the devastation of January 6th. The death knell for what they tell to me about the respect for liberty. In my mind already sick, in my life unrecognized, it died because of a massive lie. So many lies were there, to be fair, keeping an entire country unaware of a disease that brought an economy to its knees. No amount of bleach could wash away, not from defecation stains upon the walls, nor the stench of urine in the halls. On that day, the tale they tell of liberty expired, because a liar of enormous, gigantic deceits sent hate-filled people into the streets. And like George Floyd, we could not avoid, the whole wide world could see the harsh contrast of the liberty they claimed to be. I strained as I walked past solemn in my mind, as if passing through a crypt, the death of this noble rhetoric on January 6th. They spoke in monosyllables as if they really, really did exist. Stop the steal, stop the steal. There was no theft. There was no theft except for what was left of the ideal. That was the steal. That is what was stolen. Am I, a veteran, still to be beholden to an illiterate illusion that they give praise to in confusion? As if some monolith, those who were mired in the briars of liars of January 6th, I respectfully decline and desist. Our country, 'tis of thee, a mystery of reasons. Collusions affected our elections, yet no one speaks of treason. So divided we cannot hide it and can't see any movement. No persuasion in conversations, discrepancy in improvement. We don't agree in what we see or how we think or feel. Some enact alternative facts to challenge what is real. Life is hard in this regard. Who can we really trust? What is correct? Where is respect for every one of us? I know, but what about Puerto Rico? So many discussions all about Russians, but Congress takes its time. Their patriotism is a given while towing the party line. Our officials thwart potential to truly make us great. They side with greed, ignoring need, and barely deal with hate. Justice dwindles, racism rekindled, houseman on the porch. Very fine people see no evil, not by the light of the torch. Inciting danger, misplaced anger, shaming and blaming and such. Flip the focus, statements bogus. The truth is much too much. I know, I know, I know, I know, but what about Puerto Rico? They complain you best refrain from disparaging our flag while marching with zeal through Charlottesville with stars and bars to brag. Of First Amendments, blaring resentments with guns spewing hatred and curses. And police kill almost at will, saying all they did deserved it. It's unembarrassed the way they carry the statements false, distorted. Caught on tape, and still they make a lie the thing reported. I shake my head to clear the dread to not take on depression with all that's given from television, sorting facts from questions. I know, I know, I know, I know, I know, but what about Puerto Rico? Polls are showing the stress is growing, and so too separation. We used to claim we were ordained a beacon for all nations. Now lights are dim. We look to him, have hopes to no avail. People are dying. He keeps lying. It feels like we have failed. Belittling tweeting keeps increasing. Staffers come and go. Unqualified hiring. He keeps firing, but this is no TV show. Secret meetings, twisted briefings, a cartoon world bizarro. Global warming, dictator warnings. Will we yet see tomorrow? People are dying. He keeps lying. I know, I know, I know, I know, I know, but what about Puerto Rico? Thank you. Now that I got that out of my system, the only poem that's not in the books that I've done so far is the one about the death knell. Didn't have time. But what gives me hope is what we do here. You see, I believe in poetry. I believe in its magic. I believe in its ability to face something tragic, to place it in a place, a frame that helps us get past it. No matter how long, with power so strong, believe, let it take you to where you belong. I believe in poetry. I believe in inspiration. I believe the words that come are of enjoying collaboration. A poet that knows this, shows this in all of creation. With power so strong, in our prayers and our songs, receive. Let it take you to pastures of calm. I believe in poetry. I believe in its strength. I believe from haikus to sonnets, no matter the length. When word is served pure from heart, its power is evident. Through our prayers and our songs, like a praise or a bomb, conceive. Let it take you from darkness to dawn. Poetry knowingly enters in places the core of what grace is. So sweet its embrace is. So come forth and taste this. I believe in poetry. Do you? In the middle of everything that was going on in the pandemic, I stopped to think about what was happening, and I realized that I was writing a lot of sad poems. And I needed to check in and build up my spirit. Otherwise, I would have descended into the darkness. So this became the broadcast. Checking in, this is me. On the radio frequency of 12345, still alive on a planet called Orator. In the great state of hope, from a city called Elevation and the county of Elevator. Here I broadcast vast concepts, connection of the spirit, trying to affect the darkness of being alone. We cannot touch except through thought, and so we think we're on our own. In this realm, I found my breakthrough. Let me take you to the mend. Elevator, elevation, hope, orator, still alive. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the frequency. This is me checking in. And on that note, I found myself online in Zoom rooms and I connected with a group of poets in Ireland. And I wrote this poem, dedication to them. And it can be dedicated to y'all tonight because you do the same thing. I turned it on so I would not feel alone, but I am. In a room behind a closed door, wondering weary what it looks like to be near the edge. I don't go for coffee anymore. I came to this place to feel the embrace of words and glad amongst my comrades for what I heard. Glad and sad and mad. They had so much to say, brought such broad and bright perspectives to my blue mood of gray. I move slowly as with light the blight of fall gives way. I take hold of my staff in silence, searching the unseen for a place it may connect. I lift, set down. I lift, set down. A pattern that allows for me to feel. I lift, set down. I lift, set down. Without this motion, movements, I might be still. I lift, set down. I drift on down the river, stream of consciousness connected. I hear murmuring now coming from the shore. It is poets perched in Ireland. I count them as my friends, and I am pleased to be among them once more. And I'm going to close with this one. By a grace I do not understand, I was able to continue. She entered in the journal that was me. Then Edward asked me, what is it you see? What are the graces that help me face the trauma and those places far removed from scenes of love? Seen from utter darkness where the blind ones led the blind in caverns falling furthermore behind. What are the graces that place me in those shelters apart from helter-skelter that melted iron minds? They were calming words emerging that were urging me to pray, that said I didn't have to say a thing aloud. But hold on to belief, there would be comfort for my grief. If I would only seek, I'd surely find. The graces, the graces, the graces. The race is given to those who do endure, and purity is not a thing for real. The graces, the graces, the graces that take me from my weakest ways to build. But how can I explain or understand these things I cannot cradle in my hands? What are the graces that replace the things I knew, the abuse that for so long I held on to? That said to me, this truly was the path. Do unto others before they do it unto you. Beware the smiles that hold the hidden wrath. There was shame for not being one with plenty. There was jealousy that sometimes came with envy. There is sadness in the lacking for so many. When I compare the glaring differences in these instances of pain, how is it that I do not go insane? When the demons in my mind start screaming, giving chase, how do I hold the calm look on my face? My answer is grace. Thank you. Appreciate you all for listening. Once again, the book is Bridge Over Aggravated Trouble, where you will find these poems of hope and honesty and truth, because we must recognize the darkness for what it is, but not allow it to place us in eternal darkness.
Huge round of applause, please, for our poets tonight. Bernardo, thank you for grounding us in the truth of your poetry. I was just hugely moved. I know we all were. Thank you, Jason Gebhardt and Donald Illich as well. This was a wonderful night. Thank you, Henry Crawford, for the tech support, and Karen Alanier for the tribute to Myra Skleroux. Michael Davis provided the recording of the music, and we thank him. But most of all, thank you to our audience for showing up tonight and joining us on a troubled day. Please join us again Monday, February 3rd, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. We'll have the wonderful poets, Joan Quan Glass and Cynthia Marie Hoffman. In the meantime, let's all stay safe and joyful, and may poetry always find you wherever you are. Good night, everybody. See you next month.